Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD1111 class for the fall 2020 semester at Rankin, I've been going through a series of video presentations based on our textbook for the class, that being Get Programming with Node.js by Jonathan Wexler, a Manning publication. But I've decided that I've gone through Unit 0, and before I go through Unit 1, I decided to kind of take a step back and look at some of the stuff from the suggested summer reading list. Okay, and as you take a look on here, I've gone through a head-to-head standoff between Mean and Mern, and now I'm up to Nodejs.dev, and there's about 50 plus lessons in here. I went through the introduction to Node.js. Now I'm going to jump into a brief history of Node. I'm going to do these first 5. And then I'm going to, let's see. I think at least take a break from this and then before I go into the ones here. So, alright, so a brief history of Node.js. Node is only about 10 years old. Alright, not even half as old as JavaScript, and a third as old as the web. Alright, so the people writing this know what the heck they're doing and know what the heck they're talking about. In this post, as they say, we draw the big picture of Node.js and its history to put things in perspective. Now that said, I don't plan on spending a boatload of time on this lesson. I don't see the need to do that. Alright? Okay, JavaScript is a programming language. It was created by Netscape. You may or may not have ever even heard of Netscape. Back in the olden days, like back, I don't know when that was, in the 90s, I guess, we had what were called the browser wars. And the two competitors basically in there were Microsoft and Internet Explorer and Mozilla, which had Netscape. Considering the fact that many of you watching this may have never even heard of Netscape or Netscape Navigator, you can kind of tell who won that. Alright, now, Internet Explorer, as it's turned out, it lasted for quite a while, and it's not going away. And the main reason it's not going away is you get it with your Windows machines. And there are still places that use it, and there are places that are happy with it. Alright, but in my opinion, it's kind of been supplanted with either people using Chrome or using Firefox, or both. Alright. Part of the business model of Netscape was to sell web servers, which included an environment called Livewire that you could use to create dynamic web pages with server-side JavaScript. Unfortunately, it wasn't very successful. Alright. Well, it's, for lack of better words, it's making a comeback. It's not exactly the same thing, but the ideas are similar. So, one key factor, it says, that led to this rise of Node.js was timing. A few years ago, JavaScript started to be considered a more serious language, thanks to a lot of applications that sprung up. JavaScript engines became considerably better as many browsers competed to offer the users the best performance. As it says, these teams from these browser manufacturers worked hard to offer better support for JavaScript. For instance, V8 is the one that runs Chrome. It's known as Chrome V8. All right, and it says Node.js happened to be built in the right place in the right time. And luck isn't the only reason why it's popular today. But you know what? Luck is somewhat popular. Not popular, but luck is also some of the reason it's around. As it says, right place, right time. So, born in 2010, 2009, I guess. NPM started then also, the Node Package Manager, Express, 2010, Socket.io, which we'll talk about later in the course, 2010. 2011, larger companies start adopting Node.js, well-known companies. 2012, more and more companies are adopting it. 2013, first big blogging platform to use Node.js. 2014, the big fork, IO.js, is a major fork of Node.js. Introduce ES6 support and move even faster. 2015, the Node.js Foundation is born. 2016, the left pad incident. Not sure what that even is, but you can see we're up. There was Node.js version 4, there's version 6. 2017, the Node Package Manager is focusing more on security. Version 8 comes out. 3 billion downloads every week. 2018, Node 10. So this only goes through 2018, which is totally fine. Alright, let's see, what do we got here for time? See, we're only on 6 minutes, and I hate to make these things too small. So let's go through the install here, because we've done this already. Okay, Node can be installed in different ways. I went out to nodejs.org. Alright, and just clicked on the, basically the install button. I used the most stable version, not the latest version available. This homebrew thing is if you're doing it through the Mac. Alright, you can use the Node View Manager as a way where you can have different versions of Node running at the same time. So if you want to be able to test your code with older versions, or maybe there's something new that's coming out and you want to test it with that, you can do that as well. Alright. How much JavaScript do you need to know to learn and use Node.js? These are pretty small lessons, so I think I'll do the next 2 in here. It says, as a beginner, it's hard to get to a point where you're confident enough in your programming abilities. While learning to code, you might be confused, where does JavaScript end and Node begin? I would recommend you have a good grasp on the major JavaScript contents before diving into Node.js. Well, you know lexical structure, whether you think you do or not. You've worked with expressions, you've worked with types, you've worked with variables, you've worked with functions. You've worked a little bit with the word this. Haven't done too much, but we're doing more because that's what this class is all about, with arrow functions. You've worked with loops, you've worked with scope, things being local, global, etc. You've worked with arrays. We'll work more with temperate literals as we go on. You know the fact that basically just get used to putting a semicolon at the end of each executable line of code. Alright. You know what useStrict means. And we're going to go in and we're going to look more at ECMAScript. So the author says if you've got that stuff on, basically where you've learned how to use that stuff, you're on the road to becoming a proficient JavaScript developer using both browser and server side with Node.js. Following concepts are also key. That's what this class is all about. We're going to do work with asynchronous programming. We've done a little bit of work with timers and we'll continue to. We'll work with promises. We'll work with async and await. Not sure how much work we'll do with closures, but we'll also use the event loop. All right. And finally, differences between Node.js and the browser. It says both the browser and Node.js use JavaScript as their programming language. Building apps that run in the browser is completely different than building a Node.js application. Again, it's more, when you are building, I don't know if this is a great way to put it or not, and this may not even be the exact correct way to put it, but this is what I'm going to tell you. And that is that when you're building apps that run in the browser, you're building them for an end user. When you're building Node.js apps, yes, they're still going to eventually be being used by the end user, but it's more programmatic. It's more that you're doing it. I don't like to say it like that because it's a little misleading. but it's more server side versus client side. There are some key differences that make the two radically different. Node.js apps, it says, bring with them the huge advantage, the comfort of programming everything in a single language. That's one of the reasons this has become so popular. You have a huge opportunity because you know how hard it is to deeply learn a programming language, and by using the same language to do both the client and the server. What changes, it says, is the ecosystem. In the browser, most of the time you're reacting with the DOM, you're reacting with cookies, local storage, etc. Those do not exist in Node.js. You don't have a document object, you don't have a window object, and all the other objects provided by the browser. But in the browser, you don't have all the nice APIs that Node.js provides for you automatically through its modules. Things like FS, or the file system access functionality. Another big difference, as it says, is that Node.js, you can control the environment. It says there, unless you're building an open source app that anyone can deploy anywhere, you know which version of Node.js you will run the app on. Compared with the browser environment, you don't get that luxury. You don't know what browser the user is using. You don't know what version of the browser the user is using, etc. This means you can write all the modern ES6, ES7, ES8, and ES9 JavaScript that the version you're using provides. And if you're using the latest and greatest, basically it's everything. Alright, since JavaScript moves so fast, but browsers can be a bit slow and users can be slow to upgrade, you're stuck with using older JavaScript, ECMAScript releases. More on the client side. You can use Babel to transform your code to be ES5 compatible before shipping it to the browser, but in Node you don't need to do that. Another difference, as they mentioned there, is that Node.js uses the common JS module system, while in the browser we are starting to see the ES modules standard being implemented. This means, for the time being, you use require in Node.js and you use import in the browser. Now that's it for the beginning of this. And rather than going on, why won't let me go on here, but rather than doing that and going on like this, I'm going to stop right here. And I'm going to do something a little different when I come back. See you then.